Hey guys, what is up? It's Philbo. We are talking about crafting. Now, crafting has been out for a while in the game, but I haven't made a guide on it, so we're going to go ahead and do it. Now, what is crafting exactly? It's yet another way that we can basically modify our gear to add stats or alter stats on our gear to improve our character. So, it's not to be confused with enchanting. Enchanting is completely different. That's what you do when you're creating gear and making your gear what you want it to be. I have a guide on that. If you're not familiar with it, you can go ahead and check my link out. I'm putting it in the comments. Go ahead and check it out. All the primary concepts are there, and I think you'll find it helpful. But for this video, we will be focusing on crafting. So let's jump in. Okay, so crafting, what is it? We're basically going to be taking an item and we are going to be crafting an additional stat onto one of the stats that we have on our gear. So if we're looking at my boots right here, we can see I have mana crafted onto this stat right here. So it's adding that mana. There are many different outcomes that you can have, but let's go ahead and look at this a little bit closer. If you go to the alchemy table, there's this crafting tab right here. We're going to click on that, and then we are going to put in the piece of gear that we want to craft on. Now, if we hit crafting option, we're going to see all the different things that we can craft onto our gear. If you look through, each item option can be crafted upon. And in this case right here, this is the one I wanted to craft over because I don't like wound dodge chance. And because there are 3 different type of crafting outcomes, I have a possibility to completely overwrite this particular stat on my piece of gear, which is what I want to do. So let's talk about the outcomes real quick. There are 3 outcomes, or as they call it, application types. We have this plus sign, which is that the craft option here gets added to the stat that we're trying to craft on. So the wound dodge chance would stay, and then it would add the crafted option. We have this right here, which is basically like it re-rolls the stat completely. So the wound dodge chance would go away in this case, and critical rate would appear. And then the third application type is that the base stat that we're crafting on, so the wound dodge chance here, decreases by a certain amount, and the crafted option gets added. Okay, so those are the 3 outcome types. You'll also notice that there is a percentage or a chance right here that you will land on each one of these. For this particular piece of gear, I want either critical rate or physical damage percent. I have a 7.69% chance that when I craft on this, that I will get either critical rate or physical damage percent. So close to 15% chance that I'll hit one of the ones I want. Furthermore, you'll notice here the 7. There are tiers for crafting. Now, do note that in crafting, your tier of your craft can only go as high as the tier of the stat that we're crafting on. Okay. So this can only go as high as a 12. If you want to see what percentage or chance that you will get a specific tier, you could just go over here to the appearance chance and click on this percent button, and it will show you, okay, I have 10% chance that I will land a 12. And then you'll see the actual value range that you could get if you land on that. So very, very low chance that I'm going to get critical rate plus a high roll. But that's how this game works. A lot of RNG. To really get the good crafts, you're going to have to craft over and over again until you get what you want. One other thing to note about regular crafting here is that you can only craft on one stat. So once you craft on it, you can keep crafting over and over again. And if you want to change to craft on something else, that's fine. You just can't craft on all of these. You just craft on one. That's all. So when you go to craft, you're going to have these required materials right here. These are the materials that you are going to need. And we will talk a little bit about how you can get these materials a little bit later on. For now, we're just looking at the crafting and how it works. So we would select this. And once we've select this, make sure that you've got the stat you want to craft on, and then you hit crafting. Existing crafting options will be lost upon crafting. Continue. Yeah, that's fine. I'd like to do that. And you can see I didn't get what I wanted. So I used up my materials. It shows me how much materials I have left, and that's how you do a regular craft. One other thing to note is that each of these stats that we can craft on will have different crafting options to them. So if I went down and looked at spell block expertise, you'll notice that I can reroll to different things than I could on the wound dodge chance. So it's important to look around and see what stats you can potentially get. Like melee damage here, I can reroll to area damage if I wanted to. That's not something that I could do on wound dodge chance. So that's important to consider. Now that we've talked about regular crafting, we're going to talk about high crafting, which gives you the option to get a second craft on your gear. Now, I've gone ahead and crafted the critical rate that I really wanted onto my boots. So we're going to now work that second option, crafting option, onto the boots here in high crafting. So we're going to go to this second tab right here and put our boots in. Now, these are going to take high traces of creation. Again, I'm going to tell you how to get these materials in a later section in the video, but I'm going to explain how this works here. What it says here is it's going to imbue an additional random option to the gear with one crafting option imbued. So, what does this mean? Basically, what it's going to do is it's going to choose at random for you a crafting option. So you don't choose here. Like, so you see, I can search around, but it doesn't give me the option to actually choose the stat that I want to craft on for high crafting. It's just showing me what could possibly happen. So the way this works is it's going to go through whenever you hit the crafting button, and it's going to basically do a roulette, and it's going to go through and choose one of these stats at random except for what you've already crafted on. So it's going to pick one of these 5 right here at random. Then it's going to choose one of the crafting options. So let's say it goes through and it picks spell block rating expertise as the option that it's going to high craft on. It's then going to choose one of these right here. So you could get a really good thing happening here, or you could completely brick your item. So what do I mean by that? So say that high crafting occurs and it chooses melee damage, and then it re-rolls my melee damage as area damage or projectile damage. Well, since I'm a melee character, that bricks my item. It makes it useless. And the reason it bricks it is because you cannot re-high craft. It's done. You're done with it. So where does that leave us? Where that leaves us is you have to go to a reset. You have to completely reset your entire craft. And if I were to do this, like let's say I want to re-high craft this piece of gear, or recraft this piece of gear, I could not craft on this. I can't high craft it. I can't regular craft it because I crafted on this piece of gear right here and got the physical damage. And then I high crafted it and it gave me this 10 HP on every hit. Now, say I was very unhappy with that, I would have to completely reset this item and start over from scratch. And then I would put that sword in there. This is not the same sword, but I would then have to start the process over and figure out what I wanted to do. I'd come in and then I'd select this and then I'd start crafting on it again. And then once I was happy with the sword, then I'd go high craft it and hope it works out. And you might not get what you want, but that's just how crafting works at the current time in this video. They may change this later on. I don't know if they'll do that or not, but this is how it works. So hopefully the high craft works out. Let's go ahead and actually high craft these boots. And ideally what happens is it picks the spell block expertise and rolls something like physical damage. This would be like the absolute best thing to happen. But I mean, the likelihood of it happening is fairly low. So let's go ahead and hit it. And it gives me 61% barrier, which is tragic because my build uses absolutely no barrier, but that's just how it works. So if I wanted to start from scratch on these boots, I would then have to go to the reset, click in here. And since I have one of these traces of disintegration, again, I'll tell you how to get these. I would click the crafting button and it would erase these and then I'd start over. So that is the entire process. very RNG. I'm not going to mess with these boots because I have other things I need to craft on. So my recommendation is, unless you have tons of crafting material, don't try and recraft your piece. Just move on to the next piece, get it decent, and move on. Don't worry about going back and recrafting until you've gotten to the point where you just cannot craft any other piece to a better spot. Right now, this is helping me out because it gave me crit rate. So this sucks, barrier, but it is what it is. It just happens. That is high crafting, and that is how we reset. Okay, so how do we get our crafting mats? We're first going to talk about how we get regular crafting materials. Then we'll move on to high crafting materials, and then disintegration materials, which is how you reset. So the primary way of getting regular crafting materials is when you go into a map, you have the option to put these memory runes on. And if you put a memory rune in, and each of these runes right here will give you a different crafting material. Armor is going to take a specific crafting material, weapon gets its own, and accessories get their own crafting material as well. So Artemis is going to be for weapons, Tria is for armor, and then Chaos is going to be for your accessories. So let's put a weapon, memory stone, or memory rune in here, and then we're going to activate, and you'll see what occurs. So we're going to go jump into our dungeon here, and you'll see there's a presence being associated with a past memory of Artemis. Now, you do not need to put in a rune for this to happen in your chaos dungeon. These can just occur at random, and they don't need to be rare cards. These can happen on normal cards, they can happen on magic cards, as well as rare cards. So these can happen at random, but the memory rune will force it. As you're going through your map, you're going to see on your mini map here these like little rune icons, and you're going to see these remnant of memories right here, or these memory almost like waypoint looking things. And you're going to activate it, you're going to kill the mobs that pop out, and they are going to drop some of those materials. So if we look in our inventory here, this right here, the star memory, is one of the materials that we need to craft our weapon. Now it's going to take rare and magic. The other thing that can happen whenever you kill the mobs that come out of this memory here is they have a chance to drop a card. It's a Traces of Memory card. These cards will allow you to run a different dungeon that have tons of drops for crafting. So that's really what you want to happen. So let me go do the other two, because usually there's like 3 of these in a chaos dungeon. So let's go do the others. We'll look at the drops. Here we have another memory. Notice that it was rare. These can have different qualities to them. You want the really, really good ones. They drop more materials. They have a higher chance of dropping those memory cards that we talked about. And if you notice, this one actually just dropped one of those cards. So let me see if I can find it here. So Traces of Memory, whenever we finish this dungeon, we can then use this card right here to then run that map that's going to drop all those materials that we want. So it looks like I got some Traces of Creation for the weapon and some star memories. So since we put in the memory rune for the weapon, that's what we got for material. But the card that dropped was a chaos card, which is for accessories. So that can happen. Now that we're back in town, we have our card, our memory card that we talked about. And I want to show you that we can actually go onto the alchemy table, and there are these traces of memory here. So we ended up getting a trace of memory, a chaos card. The chaos card is for accessories. One thing I would highly, highly recommend doing when you're starting to craft is to take these cards to the alchemy table and then bump them up in rarity. The reason you want to do this is you're going to get way more material for running a higher level trace of memory, or a higher quality trace of memory, than if you run just the basic one. So you're going to have chaos upgrade stones. You're just going to have plenty of these. Always craft these to a higher rarity. And if you have the material to upgrade them to rare, at least rare, I would definitely do that. I think that these are probably the best use of the chaos upgrade stones. There's a couple other things you can do with these, but in my opinion, increasing the quality of your traces of memory cards is the highest value thing to do with your chaos upgrade stones. So I've actually got a legendary chaos upgrade stone. So I am going to actually bump one of my rares up here, and we're going to run this one. So now we're going to go ahead and run this traces of memory here. This is the chaos one. There's also Tria and Ortimus, which are for weapons and armor, but we're going to run the one that gives us material for accessories. So we will go ahead and activate this. Now you can increase the level if you feel comfortable doing so. I'm just going to run a regular one, but increasing the growth level is going to give you more material. So if you identify this, you'll see all the card info here, and you'll see the card rewards. So you'll see here, since we identified this, you'll see the card rewards at the bottom here. And if you bump up the growth level on your statue, you'll start seeing the additional chance that you get for all the different things that can drop in these traces of memory. So if I want to get more traces of creation, then try and run as high a level as you possibly can. It just pays off. But once you come in here, what you're going to do is you're just going to kill all the mobs in here, and you're going to see they are dropping tons of crafting material. Tons of crafting material. This is where you're going to get the bulk of your crafting material to be able to do crafts, and that's why we want to upgrade the rarity of our card and potentially get higher chaos dungeon level to get more of these materials that we need to craft. And like I said earlier, sometimes it takes plenty of times to craft on the same option to get what you want. Once you completely clear the dungeon, then you're going to summon the Abyssal Rift, hop in, then you're going to kill the boss. Make sure you clear the entire thing, though, because you want all these mats. They're that important. And you're seeing he's dropping all these traces of creation, which is good. We want as many of those rare materials as possible. We're going to look here in our inventory, and we can see all the different rare traces of creation we got and all the star memories. Now, the way that we are going to get the high crafting material, so if we go look at our crafting real quick and we pull this in, the high traces of whatever creation here for armor, accessory, the way we get these, we have to run a greater chaos card, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if we go to our crafting or our alchemy table, what we're going to see here, if we go to this third tab, there's this chaos card. It's not to be confused with the chaos card on the second tab. If you do this and you click this one, there's this greater chaos card, Land of Authority. And the boss in here is going to drop those high traces of creation, those materials that you need to do high crafting. In order to get this, you're going to need to get keys. You're going to need to get one of each of these keys. So the way that you get these keys is you're going to go to your chaos statue, and there are these tier 11 greater chaos cards. This is also confusing that these are called greater chaos cards, but you get these by running your chaos statue 20. So I have this chaos level settings up to 20, and you run tier 10 cards, and these tier 11 greater chaos cards will drop. What you're going to do is you're going to activate these, and you're going to run these, and at the end, the boss, the final boss, is going to have a chance to drop one of those keys. Now, in the game currently, there are 4 of those different greater chaos cards that we can create with keys, and they each require 3 different types of keys. So the bosses here are going to drop a random key, and you just got to hope after running enough of these that you get the ones that you need. But if you're running this enough, you'll get them. I feel like I haven't run too many tier 10s, and I've gotten enough keys to run a few of those Land of Authority greater chaos cards that you need for the high traces of creation material we need to do high crafting. All right, so we're taking out the final boss in the tier 11 card that we ran, and you'll see he's going to drop a key at the end. So he dropped the key. You see it right there. It was chaos key conflict. This is not the key I needed. And since I don't have the card to run the Land of Authority or the High Traces of Creations, I'll just show you a video that I took of doing it in the past, and you'll see kind of what happens at the end. Something else to note about the Land of Authority Greater Chaos card is that this is also something that you should upgrade to get a better chance at getting those High Traces of Creation. So you do it the same way that you do the Traces of Memory, and I highly recommend getting this up to the highest level if you can. If not, and you got to run with rare, that's cool, but get it up to at least the rare level if possible. And the reason I recommend it is because you're going to get more material. So you definitely do it. I would use my upgrade material on the Land of Authority Greater Chaos cards over all the other Greater Chaos cards. These give you different things. So like the Domain of Might, the Anchorage of the Golden Ring, and Ilya's Room they give you different things. But in my opinion, what you get from the Land of Authority is the most useful. Finally, I wanted to talk about how we get our traces of disintegration, which is how we reset our craft like we talked about earlier. If you want to start over from scratch, you're going to go to the third tab here, scroll down to other. Now this is subject to change. I could see them that they changed the way these tabs are named, like seeing it happen quite frequently. So this is where it's at right now in other, and you go to the traces of disintegration, weapon, armor, and accessories, and you are going to craft them from high traces. So high traces of creation weapon is going to get you this, and armor and accessory are going to do those. And recall that we got these high traces of creation from the Land of Authority Greater Vesper fight. So that's how that happens. Also note that if you need more traces of creation, the rare material, you can craft them here as well on the alchemy table. And then also if you need blue material for crafting and you have rare material to spare, you can break them down here. And then you can also break down some of the new Starfuser material down into crafting material as well. I'm going to also put like some notes up right now that talks about some of the different ways you can get crafting material in the game. There's quite a few other ways that are not quite as you're not going to get quite as many crafting material through these methods, but you can get like some additional material these ways. So I'll go ahead and just drop that in real quick. Okay, guys, before we close out, I just want to give a couple tips on crafting. We talked about it earlier. Make sure you're upgrading your Trace of Memory cards and your Land of Authority cards because you're going to get more materials. I think those are the best uses of your Chaos Stones right now in the game. So make sure you are upgrading those. Try and get them at least to rare. And then if you can run a higher level on your statue, do it. You'll get more materials. It's worth it to do that. Also, prioritize gear that have multiple beneficial options. So if you're going to craft a couple different pieces of armor, or you have a specific piece of armor and you're torn between going for one option over the other, look at the outcomes. And if there is a higher percentage from a few different options, go for that one. You want to maximize your positive outcomes. So do that when you're crafting and you will save material. Also, if you craft on a piece and you get something beneficial, but you're not very happy with it, don't continue rolling on it if you have other items that need to be crafted. Save the material, take the win, even if it's a small win, move on to the next piece and get that piece where it needs to be instead of going all in on one piece. You don't want to needlessly waste material. Finally, only reset an item that is high crafted if you have the materials to then come and craft on it again and get something good. You don't want to have like some slightly beneficial crafting on your gear and then reset it only to not have enough material to get a good craft. So take your time. Don't rush into recrafting if you don't have to. All right, guys. Well, that's basically all there is to crafting. If I've missed anything or if you feel like you're still confused about something, go ahead and just drop a comment and I will respond to you and get back with you. I would love to hear from you and your thoughts. Thank you again for watching the video if you've made it this far. If you have and you've found this helpful, I would so appreciate it if you hit the like button and also subscribe. It helps me out so much. But I'm going to get back to the grind. So I'll catch you guys later.